Singer and TikTok star Bella Poarch did an interview with Call Her Daddy podcast last year. Let's talk about her childhood story and how she experienced childhood trauma when she was younger. And stay tuned to the end because I'm going to give my thoughts on it. Like I said, she came out on Call Her Daddy podcast and she opened up about her childhood trauma when she was a child. But she also opened up about being bullied in school and in social media, joining the military to leave an abusive home, being SA'd in the military. She also opens up about her marriage that to a soldier she met in the military when she was in the Navy, and her unfortunate divorce. She also talks about self-harm. So let's go ahead and talk about all these topics she talked about in the podcast. So as a child, Bella was raised by her grandmother until she was 3 years old. She lived in a very poor neighborhood, and then she got adopted at 3 years old by an American father and a Filipino mother. I'm not sure if you say Filipino mother or Filipina mother. In Spanish, we say Filipina. I don't know. When I hear Bella's name, I want to say Bella because when I learned to read, it was in Spanish. I only knew Spanish. That's my first language, so I want to say Bella. So I don't know how to pronounce certain things. So I'm just gonna say Filipina mom. She was 3 years old. So she was 3 years old when she got adopted by them. And she remembers her life going pretty good at first. She said she was actually spoiled. She was able to go to the park with her brother to play with no problem. There was no problems in the house. Both adopted mother and father loved her. And she used to get a lot of presents at first and a lot of love. Then she turned 7 years old, and for some reason, her adoptive father, which she calls her stepfather, so that's what I'm going to call him, and she calls her mother stepmother out of respect for her. Her stepfather decided to buy a house in a secluded area with a farm. So Bella said after they moved to this farm, it was like night and day. Everything changed. It was like her stepfather and stepmother put her and her brother in charge of taking care of the farm animals. They used to have to get up every day at 3 a.m. in the morning on school day. I mean, I can't even imagine getting up that early. I used to get up really early just to straighten my hair because I just hated my curly hair when I was younger. So I used to just straighten it, put a lot of makeup on and all this other stuff. I was middle school, high school. But I can't even imagine getting up even before the sun comes up to take care of farm animals. I'm sure, it was hot. She did mention it was hot sometimes, like super hot. She had to pick up after the farm animals' droppings, and she wasn't allowed to take a shower before she went to school. So she went to school smelling like that. I mean, you could only imagine why she got bullied. I can't even imagine that. And she said that if her or her brother did it wrong or didn't complete the work correctly, they were not allowed to have food in the morning. I don't understand what's wrong with this man. And her mom just kind of went along with it. Her stepmom kind of went along with it. I don't know if she was just afraid of the man or what. I don't know what her story is, but she just pretty much stayed in the background and let this abuse go on. So Bella not only had a younger brother, but she had two older sisters that her stepfather and stepmother also adopted, except they were just in charge of the household work. They would wash dishes, they would sweep the floor, stuff like that. So they didn't have to do any work outside, basically the grunt work. And Bella thinks that the reason why they didn't put her older sister to do this is maybe the only thing she could think of is because her and her brother were younger and they got the dirty work maybe, and the oldest children got the better job. Either way, I don't understand what this man was doing sitting around. He was a retired military soldier, so I don't know what he was doing. He sounds very lazy to me. Definitely has some mental issues. So this is really sad, y'all. Bella, she said her stepfather used to hit her all the time, and sometimes she would he would just come in the middle of the night and lift her off the bed and just throw her on the ground and put her in a closet. I don't understand what kind of sick person would do this. I don't know what he went through, but I mean, he should have never had kids. And her and her brother used to always talk about running away, but they didn't have nowhere to run to. They lived in a secluded area, and she talked about how the culture in the Philippines, everybody pretty much stays to themselves and they mind their business. It's not like here that sometimes if you're a good decent person, if you see abuse, you report it. She says over there they just kind of mind their business and they don't ask questions about things like that. So Bella went to a private school, which makes it even worse to me. Coming to school smelling like farm animals. Most of the time, private school kids, they have nice clothes. They come to school smelling good. They have outfits that are clean, and they're stylish and expensive. I'm not sure if they wore uniforms. Either way, they weren't looking bad or smelling bad like her and her brother. She also said her clothes looked bad, and she was often embarrassed because sometimes the kids will ask them, "Hey, why don't your parents get you any new clothes?" And she was so embarrassed to tell them that they just didn't basically love her. So Bella also talked about being bullied because of her curly hair, because she said most Filipinas, they have straight hair, and I had this struggle growing up. Not the fact that I lived in a culture where my hair, nobody else had curly hair, but my family, there was five girls, and my mom, it was my mom and five girls, including me, and I was the only one with curly hair. I was, I got my curly hair from my father, and my mom did not know how to fix my hair at all. And then back then, having curly hair, I mean, if you looked at magazines, even now, it was kind of like a curse to have curly hair. It wasn't something that was seen as beautiful. So I used to straighten my hair, and so did my mom. So when I think about this, her Bella's stepmom must have had, and her older sisters, they must have all had straight hair. I haven't really done research into her life and her sisters, but I'm willing to bet they had straight hair. And this is a challenge. And comment below if you've ever experienced this, that you were the only curly hair child, and nobody ever taught you how to do your hair because they didn't know how to do it themselves because they had straight hair. Go ahead and comment below, and if you want to add your curly hair routine, go ahead and let us know. But a lot of us curly hair girls have that struggle to where we have to learn on our own, and actually love our hair first of all, because we think that our curly hair is just ugly, and then once we embrace it, we have to try to find those someone to help us take care of it and show us how to style it. Thank God for YouTube and curly hair routines. And honestly, Bella, I don't think she'll be listening to this because she's busy and famous. But any other curly hair girls out there, stop straightening your hair. Just learn how to do your curly hair. Is beautiful the way it is. I've seen Bella's pictures of Bella with her curly hair. She just, unique and stands out because to me, like Filipino women, I've always thought were at the top of the list of the most beautiful women in the world. Everybody has their different opinion, but that they're at the top, in my opinion, of the most beautiful women. And then for her to have curly hair on top of it, girl, just let your hair go. Just let your curly hair down, and you have stylists now, I'm sure. Let them just go ahead and help you with it and let those curls flow. You look beautiful with curly hair. So Bella said this continued on until her stepfather had heart problems and he had to get heart surgery. And he came to the United States to get this done. And they ended up, believe they ended up staying with an aunt. I think it was her stepmom's sister while he was getting surgery. And after her stepdad got surgery, they ended up staying there because the doctor said that he will have better medical care if he stays in the United States, and he might not make it if he goes back to the Philippines. So Bella said at that point, her stepdad stopped the physical abuse, but not the mental abuse. And the reason she thinks this happened is because one time her stepfather was getting loud with her, and to the point where a neighbor went over and said, "Hey, is everything okay?" And I'm sure that's what it was, because when abusers do that and they see that someone cares, they quickly stop if they care about their image, which a lot of them do, or if they don't want to get arrested, lose their freedom for what they're doing. And of course, abusers continue their emotional abuse because that's hard to prove. If I get hit and I get a bruise, the bruise is there. You can't cover it up. But mental abuse, most of the time they do it when people are not around and it's just words. So you can't prove that someone's doing that to you. So of course, abusers start doing that because they have to feel like they have to continue beating you up some kind of other way. So this beautiful, smart girl, Bella, graduated at 16 years old, and she joined the military at 17 with the permission of her stepmom. She had to practically beg her to join the military. And I guess because her stepdad wanted to continue having a punching bag. I don't know. I don't know why people act this way, or why he wasn't just letting her go if he didn't love her and he wasn't treating her right. But she said she practically had to beg her stepmom, and she finally signed a waiver for her to get into the Navy. And the day she was going to leave, they didn't even drive her to the place where she was getting ready to board. I guess I remember I boarded a bus when I was in the Army and then went to the airport and got into the plane. But either way, her stepmom and her stepdad did not drive her. They asked the recruiter if he could send her, basically take her to where she needed to be. And that's just really sad. And basically her stepdad said, "Hey, if this don't work out for you, this is not your home. You can't come back here." He's just honestly, he's just a monster to me. And I hate that happened to her. So basically, Bella left to go to the Navy to get away from that situation. I did similar. I joined the Army. I was going to go to college, but I didn't have the money, and things were getting too bad between me and my stepfather. So I had to go ahead and go in the military and get the GI Bills to go to college afterwards. So Bella joined the Navy, and her brother joined the Navy as well. So Bella says this is funny, but it's not. Like, I guess it's all perspective with everything, right? Because she was saying that first of all, when you're in the military, if you guys don't know, the females get put with the females and the males get put with the males. And she said that while all the girls were crying and wanting to be with their parents and they missed their sister or they missed their family, she was saying that she was so happy because she felt free. She felt like she was having a sleepover that she never had, or the friends she never got to hang out with. And to her, she was thinking like, what is everybody crying about? Like, I mean, I could only imagine this, I I would be the same way, The only reason I was crying, honestly, was at that time I was, first of all, I had really rough drill sergeants. I mean, they would make you cry, regardless of whether you miss your family or not. But also, I had just gotten married to my first husband, and we were newlyweds. So I was crying because I was away from him. I was really sad. We both joined the army and we went to different AITs and basic training states until we got united and got stationed together. So when Bella turned 18, she was SA'd by someone she knew in the military. Not only did she know him, she said she trusted him. And so the next day she came late to work and she had scratches all over her face and bruises in her neck. And her friends started asking her, what happened to you? What happened, And she was like, oh, nothing, nothing's wrong. And she finally, started crying and told them what happened. And the girls knew this person too. And they convinced her to report it and go get checked out. He got arrested, but he only got 4 years, which I think is BS. She said that other girls came out after, she had enough courage to do that, to press charges against him. But they only gave him 4 years. So she went 2 years after this happened, and all of a sudden she started getting PTSD from what happened. She said she didn't seek help because, she had this wall up, like everything's okay. I just wanted to put it behind me. And I understand how that is. A lot of us that have had trauma or things like that happen, we try to build this wall up. I guess it's just us trying to survive, until it finally hits us really hard and it comes back. And it comes back to haunt us. And it often will, unfortunately. So after that happened to her, the Navy gave her 2 options. They said that she could get out the military and go back home, or she could be stationed in another unit where no one will know what happened at all. It's like she'll start out fresh. And it just really made me sad what she said, which is, is true, but it just makes you sad thinking about her as a child, and her thinking back at what happened and all the stuff that happened in her life. And she said, I have no home to go back to. So she asked the Navy if instead she could move closer to her brother, which was still in the Navy, stationed in Japan. And thankfully they allowed her to go with him. That's the only person beside her husband, which I'm going to talk about next, her ex-husband now, that really loved her with nothing attached. They just genuinely loved her. And I was so happy to hear that they allowed her to do this. And as a matter of fact, she says her brother was the one 2 years later after that happened to her with that soldier that convinced her to finally get some help, and she went ahead and did. So Bella started dating another soldier. They were in the same unit. They had different jobs. She was 19 years old and she got married at 21 years old and married for 5 years before splitting up and later on divorcing. And she said he got her through some really hard times. I really hate that they split up. But she said that she started getting famous on TikTok, and some people were saying some ugly things about him, like because they were trying to send her messages on TikTok trying to get with her, and she was saying, "Nope, married, leave me alone." And they, she put a picture of her and her husband, and they were just making fun of her husband. And she said he's really not a person that cries or shows emotions, but that really affected him, and he was just has social anxiety like her, and did not want to be in the spotlight at all. So right before Bella got out of the Navy, her ex-husband or husband at the time was still stationed in Japan, but she got stationed in Hawaii. And of course, she's her support group was gone. Her brother wasn't around, neither was her husband, and she started getting really sad, and she ended up trying to end it all. And thankfully, her friends found her and helped her, and took her in to get some help. And she went to the psych ward in the Navy, and she said that helped her because a lot of people there were experiencing some of the same issues she was going through. So it was like a big support group for her. So in the interview, Bella goes on to mentioning what helped her get through all this. So she mentions definitely get therapy, get some help, give it time. It's not gonna heal overnight, and trauma usually, I mean, it doesn't fully go away. It feels less and less, but um, it comes back and rears its ugly head once in a while. But she said, therapy, give it time, and surround yourself with good people. Sometimes being alone is better than being bad company. I completely agree with her. And she talked about how she has this board, and this is a great idea. I'm going to start doing this. And, before when I was younger, and when I was a younger parent, I didn't think, that's just what I was taught, that younger people don't have no wisdom to give you. And this was a really wise thing to say. She said she watched a video about manifesting things in her life. And what she would do is she would write 3 things that she wanted to happen in her life, to manifest those things. And she would, kind of erase the one that she manifested and write another one. And she would see it every day. And I think this is a great idea to kind of just look to see what you want to thrive for, and see it happen, see it come true. This really encourages you. So if you're struggling with things out there, I too advise what Bella's saying. Just have a board, put it up in the wall where you see it every day, and just write things down that you want to happen to you, that you want to accomplish, that you want it to come to pass. And just erase it and put another one. Always have something to look forward to. I think that's really helps. All right, now I'm going to give you my thoughts on this whole story as far as everything she went through relating with childhood trauma and her healing journey. So my first thought about all this is obvious. I mean, Bella's stepfather didn't want children. He just wanted servants. He was a retired army soldier, and I guess he just thought of this great idea for him to adopt all these kids to just basically do everything for him so he wouldn't have to lift a finger. I mean, the guy didn't even work. He couldn't get up and help take care of the farm animals, or help with work around the house. I mean, he was a miserable person, and I feel like he just took it out on these children. And he, like I said, he had some serious issues mentally and physically abusing this kids like he did. And the name calling. I mean, I'm not going to repeat here. You could just look up the full interview of what he used to call her and her brother. It's just terrible names. You call a child something long enough, their self-esteem is going to go down. So my advice, and I know some people are not going to listen, But if you know that when you get angry, you start hitting and you start calling names, don't have children or adopt any children. Just stay by yourself. Why bring someone to this world to be miserable with you or to take it out on? Get some help. Try to figure out why you're like that. Don't have somebody else suffer because you're miserable and you got issues. You got mental issues, basically. Also, as far as this bullying goes, there's been a lot more awareness, but there's still a lot of people that bully out there. And I know that your children are going to do what they want either way, but I used to sit my children down when they were younger, and I used to, make sure that I told them, do not participate in any bullying. Defend those people if you can, or tell somebody. Tell them you want to stay confidential, and tell a counselor that this person is being picked on if they're not brave enough to say it. Because you don't ever know what anybody's going through, and some people come to school just to get away from home, and if they're experiencing that at home as well, I mean in school as well, that's a bad combination. People that child is eventually not gonna even want to be here. So Bella, as I stated before, said that a neighbor actually cared enough in the United States to get involved whenever she heard Bella's stepfather start getting loud with her. And this is why, I emphasize in my other episodes that it's so important for your children to have other people around, including their father and mother, whether they're separated. It's important for you to let your children see that other parent. Make trips to go see their grandparents, to go see their aunts, to see their cousins, so they know that they have family that they can tell things to. Because sometimes they're too afraid to tell, or don't feel safe to tell their mom or dad what's going on, but they might call their grandma or uncle. Or if they're away from their dad, whenever they go visit their dad, they could tell them what's going on with their stepdad or their stepmom, vice versa. It is so important because abusers like to isolate you and completely make it to where you are not talking to any of your family members or friends. So that way they could abuse you and you have no support group. And no one is convincing you to leave them or press charges against them or anything else like that. They got you to themselves as a punching bag. So remember that whenever you're trying to keep your child away from the other parent. That's not a very smart thing. Or other family members. Unless they're the abusers themselves, of course. But, if you're just doing it for your own personal, if you're being bitter or for your own personal thing, because someone cheated on you and now you don't want your other spouse to see the kids, that's stupid. Don't do that. It's only hurting your kids. It's not hurting them. And I know some people are going to disagree with me, but when you're in a bad home environment and you're 18 or are able to join the military, I think the military is a great thing. I joined the military myself when I was going through a rough time and it didn't get any better. You don't have to join for a long time. You could I did a 2.5 contract with the Army and got out after that. And I had plenty of money to go to school and start my own life and do other things. And I never went back to the military. So just keep in mind that that's a pretty good option. You have benefits. You have a guaranteed pay every time, as long as you sign the contract for it. So that it's not like a civilian job where you have layoffs all the time and you don't ever know when you're going to lose your job. Also, the military provides free counseling. And all the people that provide that counseling either have a master's or doctoral degree in the mental health field and a license to practice independently. And if you're ever SA'd by somebody, speak up right away. Do not wait. That person, I know you're scared and it takes a lot of courage to do this. And you're going to feel like you're actually the person being put in trial and the one that did something wrong, because they'll ask you a lot of questions and sometimes they make it seem like you're making it up. But do it anyways. That person could do it to somebody else and you don't want them to be out there free trying to do this to somebody. And I'm so happy that Bella had friends that supported her and convinced her to go ahead and gave her the strength and stood by her side. And oftentimes, when you have childhood trauma, you try to, I know at least me, and the way Bella was talking, she sounded like me, where she was trying to really do good in the Navy before this happened. She was trying to get, I think, an aviation certification, some kind of certification that looks good, for her to get more rank and more money. And we try to do that because, we try to get some kind of we're trying to get some kind of recognition from somebody because we never got that growing up from our parents. And we want to feel like we're important, like we're doing something good, and like we're, someone's finally appreciating us. And oftentimes, whenever things like that happen to us, we don't want to tell because it's almost like we're being the trouble child. And we don't want to stir anything up like that because we already have a hard time in our mind trying to get ahead because we already have a war going on in our brain as far as trying to be over achievers. So we could at least get recognition because we so needed that when we were children and we never got it. Also, I feel like, like it was great that she finally went and got help. I've spoken my previous episodes to get help whenever you still have unhealed trauma. Often, when we have trauma, we put this wall up, like everything is okay, like there's nothing wrong with us until we feel like we can handle it, until we can't, until we fall flat on our face. But when someone experiences trauma, I mean, the primary focus is to ensure survival. So we don't think about anything else. We're just thinking about surviving at the time that the trauma is happening to us. And then when we finally slow down and everything seems a lot better, that's when we fall hard. But unfortunately, a lot of us stay in that survival mode for way too long. Bella even admitted herself to doing this for 2 years until her brother convinced her to finally get some help. And she started experiencing PTSD from what happened to her. And again, when Bella was asked if, she was given the option to go back home after that happened to her in the military with the man that she trusted and knew, she said she didn't have a home. And often a lot of us feel that way, even though there is a home to go to. We're going back to people that hurt us, people that abused us, people that said really mean things to us and called us names. Um, and I'm not talking about just mental abuse. They physically hurt us, and we're honestly start developing this hatred for this person, and we don't want to go back and live with them. So I mean, that's not an option to us. Some of us would rather be homeless than go back to that environment, unfortunately, for us. And also, if any of your parents were absent, you don't feel like you could go to them either. In this case, Bella didn't know her real parents, so she couldn't go back to her real parents. But there's also the case, like I said, where the other parents, the real parents, are absent, and they just make you feel like you can't go to them because you feel like they don't care. So make sure your home is safe, even if you made a mistake and made it to where you were with someone that it wasn't safe. Eventually, leave that situation so your child has a home to come to that is safe and where they would want to come back to, so that your child could say they do have a home to come back to. And I felt so bad for Bella when she was telling the story about her and her ex-husband. It's almost like sometimes I feel like some of us get handed certain cards that just were so unfair, and we continue to get handed those cards, and I just don't understand sometimes why. But she never knew her parents. Got adopted at 3 years old. Got abused by those the adopted her stepdad. Her stepmom didn't do anything about it. She experienced that She got essayed, basically in the military, and now here she is finding someone that actually loves her other than her brother, and they end up splitting up. And it wasn't because he was a bad person, but it was just an unfortunate situation. But still, it just makes me sad for her, and I could definitely relate because you look at other people's lives, and of course, no one has a perfect life, but surely other people they don't go through that many things in life like that. To you feel like you can't catch a break, and sometimes like oftentimes when I was listening to her story, I was talking to my daughter about this. I'm listening to her and I'm like, I wonder if that's what I sound like to people because it's when I tell my story, it almost sounds unbelievable that someone could do stuff like that if you didn't experience it. So, like, if you had, I wouldn't say a perfect childhood because no one has had a perfect childhood or has been perfect parents, but if you had a pretty decent childhood with mother and father there, loving you, caring about you, wondering what you're doing every day, um, and you listen to someone like Bella or me or others that have experienced childhood trauma, you're like, wait a minute. Is she serious? Is she telling the truth about this? And honestly, we repeat it so much. Like Bella, um, she went to therapy for a while, and in therapy, she repeated what happened in her life. I'm sure many times, and I find that the more you repeat it, the more numb you get to it. Sometimes you laugh about it. And a lot of people think, well, why is she laughing about it? Why is she saying it like as a matter of factly? And it's because we get numb. And we almost like, if you're like me, I don't like to play the victim role. And I don't like people feeling sorry for me. I just want to get healing. But in order to get healing, I have to tell the counselor what happened to me. And sometimes I have to repeat certain things or tell her a different way, or maybe she missed something that um or I missed something during the time, I was telling her the story, or I'm telling the story and I missed something and I have to go back to that time. So just be mindful of that when someone's telling you something, and that's why we react like that. But it's very much real. I wish it wasn't. And I'm so happy that Bella, with her platform especially, because she could reach out to way more people than me, was brave enough to talk about her childhood trauma and what she experienced and what it cost her for parents to act like that with her. And also for her speaking out on the importance of therapy, because it is really important, and you deserve to have that help and be happy and be free. And also, I wanted to talk about that trauma effects last for a long time, sometimes the rest of your life. Like I said, it might be less and less as the time goes by, but you could be listening to a song or a show comes on, or you pass by a place or a person you see that looks like someone that hurt you, and that trauma will come back. That's just how trauma is. And some people, they're in therapy for a long time because of this. And sometimes they'll stop going, but they have to go back because of this. And it is so important to just cut people off. I'm not saying completely. Some people you have to cut off completely the rest of your life, but temporarily sometimes while you heal, because some people they're just too toxic. They will lie. They'll deny, something happened. They'll gaslight you. They're basically just ugly to you. They're not sensitive. They show no empathy with the situation, or they start to try to dump their traumas on you. I had this happen. And to the point where, like, why am I trying to fix everyone's trauma? I can't even fix myself. I'm not even healed. So if you feel that weight in your shoulders and you have unhealed trauma, you're gonna have to let those people go, because the only people that could help them is specialists, people that specialize in in trauma. So just let that go and get your own help. So that's my thoughts on her. And I just want to wish her well. She has a beautiful voice, beautiful lady, beautiful curly hair. Let your hair go curly. It's so pretty. You're unique. Filipina with curly hair. That's so beautiful to me. And my best advice to Bella is to stick with those that knew her and loved her and cared about her before she got famous, especially with her trauma, because she's going to have to go back to those people that mean her well, that don't want her for her fame, that don't want her for her money. Because, you know, fame and money, I'm so glad because she has it, and, you know, that does help, but that does not fix her sadness inside and all the struggles she's going to have to go through the rest of her life as she does life. So how about you? How has your childhood trauma affected you as an adult? Put it on the comments below. And please share, like, and subscribe to help the YouTube algorithm to get this video out there to others that may need to hear this. It would greatly help if you go ahead and do that for us, to help us on our journey to try to prevent childhood trauma. I love y'all, and I see you on the next one. Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I've got my own issues. I need a comb to get through. Don't need to groan with you. Just go get your own tissue.